Well, hey there, and welcome to Wedding Planning Simplified. I'm Amy from Unmistakably You, and I'm a wedding planner and educator here in London, Ontario. I hope that you're having a great weekend so far, and I'd like to welcome all of our new members. If you are new and just joining us, we go live every Sunday at this time. Usually live. We post a video every Sunday at this time. The summer has been quite busy, and so we've been posting pre-recorded videos on occasion, but this is actually the second week in a row I've been here live with you today, so that's exciting. If you're a longtime viewer and member, thanks so much for watching us here every week and for giving us your feedback and for joining us as we talk all about your wedding, the things that you might be dealing with, the problems you might be coming up against, the questions that you have, and hopefully we're giving you some tools and strategies to make it through your planning with a little bit less stress and hopefully a little bit more prepared for your wedding day. We are in August. I can't even believe the summer is flying by so fast, but we've decided to create a theme for you this month called Honest August. And the reason that we're doing this is because there are a lot of myths and misconceptions and just general lack of information or knowledge out there among folk like you who are maybe newly engaged. And so we wanted to hopefully set you up for success by dropping a few truth bombs here and there and giving you some real talk about things that you might come across in your wedding planning. And I am always a fan of the idea that knowledge is power. So we're hoping to be able to enlighten you and give you some tools to combat some of those things that you might be experiencing in your wedding planning. And so today's plan is to talk about 5 lies that wedding professionals tell you. Now, here's my disclaimer. If you are a wedding professional, know that I love you. Know that I recognize that you are doing the best that you can for your clients and that you love them and that you are extremely knowledgeable in your craft and that you are there to help guide and support your couples as they navigate their wedding planning journey and their wedding day. So this is by no means intended to offend or to pass judgment on anything that anyone says. This is also not directed at anyone specific. I just have noticed in the past 15 years of wedding planning that when I'm on people's websites, and I mean, I'm talking local people, I'm talking people on a broader scale, countrywide, worldwide. If I'm on websites for wedding professionals, I notice a trend of things that are said or catchphrases that are used or kind of buzzwords that a lot of wedding professionals put on their website. And the goal of putting these kinds of things on their websites or using them in their marketing collateral is to convince you, the couple, that they are going to provide a transformation for you. This is marketing stuff that we're not going to talk about, but they're trying to convince you that they can provide a transformation that is going to give you what you need to be happy on your wedding day, to have a wonderful wedding day, to have a perfect wedding day, insert adjectives and verbs here. So I have made a list of the top 5 things that I tend to see, and I just wanted to highlight them and hopefully give you a little bit more information and dispel some of those myths for you so that you don't get caught in that trap as you navigate your wedding planning. And these are things that I'm sure you've seen, I'm sure you've heard. They're kind of societally present and have been for about the last 20 to 30 years, I think. I mean, I haven't been in the industry that long, but my sense is that from speaking to the parents of my engaged couples, things have changed a lot since they got married. And the wedding industry complex, if you want to call it that, has definitely, just adjust my camera here, has definitely grown and changed. And some of that messaging that they're putting out there is very much a mind game, if you want to call it that, to take your money. And I don't want to diminish your wedding and the emotions that you're having. But the reality is that weddings are a big industry and people who work in weddings make their living working in weddings. So it's in their best interest to sell you these mindsets or these ideas and take your business. So it's not malicious by any means, but wedding professionals are using some of these mindsets and phrases and buzzwords to pull you in and to book you as a customer. And that's not to say that they don't care about you. That's not to say that they don't want to help you have a perfect wedding day or look like a princess on your wedding day. It's just that these are words that are commonly seen in the industry, and a lot of wedding pros kind of hop on that bandwagon. When I was first starting out, I had the phrase "your wedding, your way" on my website, which I at the time thought was super original, and it really, really isn't. I didn't come up with that. I subliminally, I think, saw it somewhere and used it. And I no longer use that in my marketing because it's not really honest. It's your wedding, yes, but oftentimes it's not your way. And so that leads me into the first myth or lie that I see often, which is wedding professionals telling you that your wedding is all about you. Now, if you're engaged, you likely know that this is not always the case. Everybody says, "Oh, it's your wedding. What do you want?" But the reality is that there are oftentimes pressures coming from all over the places. And you know, as soon as you get engaged, the questions start coming and the ideas and the pressures and the subliminal, do this. Oh, you should really do this. Maybe your mom is putting pressure on you to do the things that she didn't get to do at her wedding. Maybe your dad feels like he gets to push his priorities because he's footing some of the bill. Maybe there's pressure even coming from yourself to have a bigger or a better wedding than your friends. Maybe there's pressure either from yourself or from your siblings or from your parents to have a different wedding than your sister or your brother. You don't want to, use the same photographer or else everything will look the same. You don't want to have the same venue or else everything will be the same. So while, yes, it is your wedding, oftentimes there are pressures coming at you to do things that you don't necessarily feel are your first choice. And I wish I could tell you there's an easy solution to that. Unfortunately, there isn't. But again, knowledge is power. And if you are able to get together with your fiance and have some real honest discussions about your priorities, about your budget, about your desired guest list, about those elements of your wedding that are important to you, if you have that conversation early on in the engagement with your partner and you present a united front on these ideas, you are setting yourself up for more success when you get that pushback against what you want to do. If you have a solid explanation for why you're making certain choices, if you're able to defend your priorities, I'm not saying that the mom who's pressuring you will just say, "Oh, okay, honey, then you do whatever you want." But it's more likely that if you and your fiance are able to defend your ideas, to present that united front, that you'll have more of a stable footing to maybe negotiate for what it is that you want at your wedding. So I harp on priorities all the time, but that's definitely one thing that is important to do early in the process. And while you're setting those priorities, determine what the non-negotiables are, and then determine what the things are that you're willing to give on a little bit. Sometimes if you're being pushed to do A by a parent, you can say, "Well, you know what? I really, really want to keep that the way that I'm planning, but here's B, and I don't really care about that. So I'm going to give you that one." So if you can have some negotiating tools in your toolbox and you can make it feel like you're giving in to a parent or someone who's pressuring you, then perhaps they feel like they've gotten what they want while you still get to keep your priorities. So unfortunately, your day is not all about you, but hopefully if you can set some priorities and some boundaries with your fiance early in the process, it will be more about you than it otherwise might be. Something else that I see oftentimes is wedding pros telling you that your day will be perfect. And I can't lie to you. I think this is perhaps one of the biggest myths or misconceptions out there. And if you are really buying into the perfect wedding day, I think unfortunately you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And I mean, perfection is subjective. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, all of that. So I really think that if you get lost in the weeds of all the minutia and the tiny little details that realistically you're the only one who will notice, if you get so wrapped up in those details that it's going to ruin your day if your napkins are folded incorrectly, or if the florist had to sub out a flower because they couldn't get ranunculus, for instance, or if the bustle on your dress breaks, if you let those things ruin your day, it's unfortunately going to taint what really probably was an amazing day. Maybe it wasn't 100% perfect, but if you fixate on those items that went wrong, you're going to have a negative memory of your day instead of focusing on all the things that went right. I mean, I could probably talk until next Tuesday about all of the things that we've seen and all of the issues that arise on wedding days. It is just impossible to predict everything. And as well prepared as you think you are, there are always going to be things that you can't possibly predict. And so that's why we're there. Plug for a wedding planner. But if you are okay with rolling with the punches and understanding that as long as you have an officiant who's legally certified to marry you, you say, I do, you're married, and that's what counts on the wedding day. Bonus if all of the other things go right. But try to focus on the celebration of your marriage with your closest family and friends instead of those tiny little things that realistically no one else will ever notice. And I recognize that that's easier said than done, but I do see a lot of people really, really concerned about making sure that the candles are in groups of 3, or making sure that the runners cover the seams on the tablecloth, or whatever it is. And those things ultimately are going to have zero impact on your guest experience. And hopefully you can get to a place where they have zero impact on your experience of the day. Now, your experience of your wedding day is going to be very different than experiencing a wedding as a guest. And I've seen this on different wedding professionals' websites. The claim that they can help you be a guest at your own wedding. Typically, this one is one that planners are guilty of. And it's one that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and in my experience, I just know that it's not true. My goal as a planner is to take away as much of your stress as I possibly can, but I know that realistically, I can't take away all of your stress. It's a day where emotions run high. It's a day that you are mentally and physically and financially and emotionally invested heavily in it. And if I say to you, you'll be a guest at your own wedding, I'm just setting you up unrealistically for the experience that you're going to have. Everyone on your wedding day is going to want a piece of you. So you're in this heightened emotional state. You're excited. You're happy. You are perhaps having moments of sadness as well if you're remembering people who can't be there with you. It's just this really emotionally charged day. And then you add to that everybody wants to congratulate you and hug you and say hi and introduce you to their boyfriend that you've never met that they brought as a +1. Whatever it is, you're going to be pulled in a million different directions. And I always try really hard not to pull my couples in many directions on the wedding day, but I am responsible for making sure that things go according to plan. So sometimes I do need to interrupt my couple as they're talking to a friend and say, we really need to move on with speeches because we're running out of photography time and we have to keep things moving if you want photography coverage of X, Y, and Z. Things like that are unavoidable. And there's just, if you've scheduled any kind of formality at your wedding, like speeches, formal dances, bouquet, garter toss, any cake cutting, anything like that, you're going to be pulled into those directions and taken away from what it is that you're doing. And my bride last night said, yep, we're going to do a bouquet toss. We had planned it. We had a song chosen. And when it got to be 10:30 and I brought her the bouquet, she was like, you know what? I don't want to do it. I'm having fun here. And cool, no worries. But just know that there are going to be guests, there are going to be vendors, there are going to be parents, there are going to be wedding party who need things from you. And even if it's as simple as they want to pull you aside for a selfie, they're going to want to pull you aside for a selfie. And that's going to mean that you feel like you're being spread pretty thin on your wedding day. That's not the experience of a guest. You don't just get to drink and enjoy and hang out and do whatever you want to do. You do have responsibilities to your guests and to your wedding party and to your family on the wedding day. And it doesn't have to overtake the day. I'm not saying in any means this is a negative thing. I'm just trying to set you up to expect that you're not going to be able to sit back and relax on your day. Now, something else that I often see is from the aesthetic or sort of health and beauty side of things is you'll look like a princess on your wedding day. Or, for any grooms who may be watching, you'll look like a prince. This is something, again, that I understand. I know that you are going to be on camera all day. You're going to be the focus of all of your guests' attention. And of course, it's natural to want to look your best. However, I feel like in the wedding industry, there's a lot of focus on losing weight and having the perfect body and looking good in your dress or your suit or whatever you're wearing, making sure that you've got a skincare routine, making sure that you've done all of the things, the diet, the exercise, the skincare, the mani-pedi, the makeup, the hair. There are a lot of things that play into the way you should look on your wedding, and there can be a lot of pressure. And what I hope is that you're able to recognize that, yes, you want to look great on your wedding day, but it's probably more important to feel great on your wedding day. And I'm talking about both physical feeling and emotional well-being. I don't ever want you to get to your wedding day having starved yourself to fit into your dress and being so weak and lethargic that you can't enjoy the day because your body just doesn't have the energy. I don't want you to get to your wedding day and have an injury from lifting heavy weights to try and, get that perfectly sculpted back in your backless dress or whatever it is. So I would really encourage you, and this is something we've talked about before, I would really encourage you to set yourself up for success in life and in wedding planning by focusing on some healthy habits throughout the course of the planning. It's a busy time, it's an exciting time, but if you can find ways to manage your stress, to get a solid 8 hours of sleep every night, to drink lots of water, to eat a healthy, well-balanced meal, to communicate with your partner and with your friends about your feelings, to make sure that you're still dating your partner and you're still planning your marriage instead of just your wedding. All of those things are going to help set you up for success, for feeling good on your wedding day. And of course, I'm not saying don't have your hair done, don't have your makeup done, don't buy wonderful attire that you feel great in, but I'm just saying hopefully the focus is more on long-term health and wellness than it is on looking great on that wedding day. That wedding day is a big day, but it's not necessarily the biggest day of your life, the most important day of your life. If you are a couple who is engaged and perhaps already have children, you'll know that the day those children are born is a big day. You may have had other monumental days in your life leading up to this point, or this may be the biggest day up until this point in your life. I just worry that this messaging blows things out of proportion and creates unrealistic expectations for you of, like we talked about before, making it a perfect day, making sure you look perfect, making sure that everybody is perfect. It's a big day, absolutely, but it's probably not the biggest day, or by the end of your life, it won't be the biggest day. It's a special day, absolutely. It's a day that you look forward to for a long time, absolutely. I just caution you not to get so wrapped up in the minutia again that you're disappointed if things don't go as well as you had planned. We talked last week about, or actually maybe it was 2 weeks ago, we talked about the post-wedding blues. And this is something that if you've geared yourself up so much for the perfect day, the biggest day of your life, and then all of a sudden that day is over, you run the risk of really experiencing those post-wedding blues in a more dramatic way than a lot of people might, because you've keyed yourself up so much, hoping that it's going to be the best, the most perfect, the biggest, the most exciting. You're going to have the guest experience kind of day. So just be cognizant that there will be other days as well. And hopefully you can help to reframe your mindset a little bit so that your expectations are a little bit more reasonable, and so that you're able to enjoy the day no matter what happens. Easier said than done, I know, and I'm certainly no therapist, but I do encourage you to really focus on planning your marriage and recognize that, yeah, the wedding is a big day, and it should be all about you, but it likely isn't. It probably won't be absolutely perfect, but that's okay. You're not going to be able to have a guest experience, but that's okay. And no matter how you look, as long as you feel good, that's okay. Hopefully, then you'll have a much better wedding experience. Thank you, as always, for joining me here. If you are catching this on the replay, pop in a comment that says hi. Shoot me a message saying, hey, you know what? I really liked that point. Or, that brings up a question. We always like to hear from you, and we would love to be able to help you out with specific things that you're worried about. So shoot me a message, Amy at Unmistakably You. You can send a Facebook message. You can comment on this video. We always love to know when people are watching. So join me next week for our third installment of Honest August, when we are talking about the wedding issue that no one tells you about, the wedding wrecker, in fact, that no one tells you about. So I'll see you here next week, same time, same place. Have a good one, folks. Happy planning.